Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Kaga. So yeah, there was a bit of an outage in regular programming on the channel for a few days. I'm sorry about that. Got a little wrapped up in some more real life stuff. You know, that kind of stuff you can't get away from. Obligations, promises, all the good stuff. All the good stuff that comes from living on planet Earth. Well, living on planet Earth and knowing people. I don't know about how hermits might consider obligations, but for the rest of us, I get the feeling that there are plenty of things that keep us from doing everything we would otherwise like to do on the internet, and at least for me, YouTube is no exception. And as such, this video is kind of going up a little later than I really would have liked to have it up, but you know, better late than never. So recently, in World of Warships, they released patch 0.5.3, which came with a whole bunch of nice features. Well, they were promised as nice, and we'll kind of consider a few of them in this video. But to kind of recap the big changes, they reworked the skill tree for captain skills, and they introduced the Team Battles game mode, along with some new OST music and a few other things along the way. But today we're going to just, because this is more gameplay focused, we'll just look at the how this affected the Tirpitz, and it looks like my replay system is still a little wonky with the display of the icons at the bottom of the screen, because HE, I doubt I was really that not paying attention or just that completely zoned out when I was playing and loading in that I didn't switch to AP automatically and didn't put a narrow focus on my torpedoes. That seems to be something I like doing in my anything that can fire good AP and has torpedoes. So like my Japanese cruisers or the Tirpitz, it's like my automatic thing. Anyway, getting back to what this video is about, it's how the Tirpitz and I guess some battleships in the game have taken the 0.5.3 update. And maybe this is just the Tirpitz, but I tend to suspect not, because many of the things that might have impact gameplay for battleships, I guess unless for very specific cases, like I know a lot of battleship captains were looking forward to the manual control click boost to secondary battery performance, but I'm not certain about that particular skill on most battleships, and I'd say that because, you know, your primary targets for these batteries are usually not other large ships, they're usually destroyers. And with your typical secondary battery range of about 4.5 kilometers, give or take, on your, let's say, at least I think that's the number that comes to mind for the Tirpitz. Some of the other ones goes up to 5. I think the Nagatos goes up to 5, and probably the Amagis as well. So it's like, and then again, this part of my mind, your average destroyer won't be detected until they're at 5.5 kilometers. So that gives them about either a half kilometer or a kilometer's space where, yes, they're detected, but they're not going to be fired at. Now I know that some of the secondaries in-game don't get affected by advanced fire training anymore. Oh, wait, I take that back. Apparently I was feeling that much out of it because, yeah, though that really was high explosive. Armor piercing doesn't set things on fire. Well now. Sorry, program. I didn't mean to insult you. I'm sorry. Now, why this Ryujo is wasting his fighters, I don't know, but okay. But you have, getting back on topic, you have these rather range-limited batteries. And I don't know, it doesn't seem very useful unless you have a ship that has naturally very long secondary firing range, you know, like I believe the North Carolina has good secondary range, the Iowa, the Montana, the Izumo, and the Yamato. But other than that, I can't see any other ships having any real benefit on there without first taking advanced fire training, which means that you're now taking up 2 4-point captain skills instead of, you know, bolstering up some of the other things that you would like to have, like, you know, superintendent for that extra repair party, or God, I don't know, there's a few other things down at the lower tiers that might help you out once you get like jack of all trades type of skill at the 5-point. I mean, you can, and it's just one of those, you get the trade-offs. Do you get that really nice 5-tier skill that got buffed recently, or do you choose something else, like an additional 4-point skill and a 1-point skill to balance that? Now, maybe that's just my personal opinion of trying to find the best allocation of points for the most situations I have. But for me, I just don't see the benefit in these skills. In the manual control for secondary. It's almost like trying to say, yeah, I want to go into close quarters here and, you know, full speed ahead, damn the torpedoes. But I try not to do that. But and you, at that point, you might go ahead and say, well, maybe you're the typical sniping battleship captain, sits in the back, doesn't do a lot. Well, maybe this replay will actually show you otherwise, because there was that cruiser we finished off at a few kilometers. There's this Cleveland who's now trying to take Billy big steps in the right direction. Piddly damage. Napalm. Holy napalm. And looks like an ally finishes him off. But again, this is just one of those, you know, maybe it's just not right. Those skills just don't suit the way I like to play. And, you know, I do like moving battleships into intermediate range. You know, that space between 7 and 15 kilometers. Yeah, I've got range that goes out to about 22. I don't care. I don't really think that that's a good use of it to rely on it on that range, because, you know, they're inaccurate as all hell at that range. That's not to say I won't take shots at that range, but if I could find a closer target, I will usually take the shot at the closer target. Unless, you know, it's a broadside on cruiser, and then even with the dispersion, I stand a fairly good chance of doing some pretty serious damage, unless some old RN Jesus said us otherwise. Piddly. But yeah, I guess for me, unless I was in one of those battleships I stated earlier, it just doesn't make sense for me to take it. And from where I sit, even then, perhaps there are better skills to take on those other battleships, especially the US Navy ones, because their AA is one of their big advantages over every other nation's battleships. They've got fairly good AA armament, and that is speaking from the perspective of a carrier captain who has tried to sink them in the past. I have sunk a number of them, but some of them are, when they're well captained, really do make you the most use out of that AA, and it can be quite crippling to any given strike. And I think that would captain skill that you would have on those ones would be better spent to buff the AA on it. I mean, that's not to say I would naturally grab the manual AA on like a North Carolina or an Iowa or a Montana, but that being said, I would consider it quite heavily because the AA is naturally quite strong on there. But I could also get away with advanced fire training because none of their armaments go above the 127 millimeter caliber, so all of them would be buffed by it. And pay attention, battleship captains. Look around you. Make a habit of exploiting the fact that you have roughly half a minute reloads, that your ships are relatively quick to stop, and that in some cases you have special weapons like these torpedoes, at least on the Tirpitz. I hope that's what the flavor of German battleships is that they have torpedo launchers. That would be really cool. But anyway, that's something else altogether. Alright, so as you can see, I detected the threat from that destroyer before it became a threat. And he's now funneled by the very weapon by which he sought to end my game. And I suspect there's another destroyer there. Okay. Change course again. Okay, now be careful. And that's one of the easiest ways you can actually cause damage to yourself in battleships, is not paying attention and overturning. That is being too hard with the rudders. That's very bad. Very, very, very bad. Now that I'm clear of those torpedoes, I make another correction turn, expecting that enemy Fubuki's torpedoes to be coming my way any second now, and I'm constantly looking back between shots on this Atago to make certain of where those torpedoes are. And I'm also making these shallow, erratic turns to try to avoid enemy high explosive shelling, because while I haven't used my damage control or my repair consumable just yet, I want to save them just in case I take a torpedo hit, and also just in case they ignite another fire, because then that way naturally I will put out 2 fires for the price instead of just 1. I have really no idea what this Ryujo was thinking with his flight squadrons. Tier 6 bombers, or Tier 6 planes in general, up against Tier 8 battleships, which have alright anti-aircraft performance, doesn't seem like a very economic trade here. At least that's my perspective as a carrier captain. I just don't see the economy in that strike. It's not to say that you should never do it, but right now there are probably other more important targets for him to worry about than these 2 battleships. And, oh, islands. Tightest shot yet, group of shots yet. Just clustered right there on the very edge of the island's hitbox. Ugh. Yuck. But, you know, it's just one of those. Sometimes RNGesus is with you, sometimes he's not. So far, I've not been feeling the love. And right now, you're probably wondering, why am I targeting that destroyer? Now, that's easy. The easy-to-kill cruiser is not longer spotted, and the closest threat is that destroyer. Not just to me, but also to the Imagi, which is covering my flank. If I can kill him, it'll be a lot easier to move in on that group of enemy battleships and that enemy cruiser. That is just keeping apprised of the situation. And now I see the destroyer that was capping, or has the majority of the capture points, so I naturally will take a shot at him. And he was low enough health that one shell was all it took. I see that this destroyer over here is his engine's out, and promptly donk the shot. Oh, Lord. Fire a standard spread going left to right. We get Piddly again. Piddly, 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 piddly. Put in another shot out. Two very nicely grouped things. Again, piddly. And now you're probably wondering why I haven't switched to the high explosive. And that's got to do with a few very big, ugly battleships right in front of me. I didn't want to waste the time switching ammunition in order to re-engage these people, which includes, I believe, a Colorado, a New Mexico, and a Nagato. Oh yeah, and there's that Atago again. Cruiser, battleship. Cruiser, battleship. Okay, one of them's been reset. Come on, secondaries, help me out. Oh, I'm gonna miss those torpedo tubes. I'm not gonna lie. I am really gonna miss them right now. He's broadside, and I couldn't take the shot. Make me sad. I will take my frustration out on this New Mexico. And now, boom, he's gone. Alright. Battleship, battleship, or cruiser? This is a tough one. Got high explosive loaded. Accidentally tapping back from after firing the torpedoes. Just a little habit from playing destroyers fairly often is that you don't use the armor piercing much, so you get into this habit of tapping the one key right after you fired a salvo of torpedoes. Okay, definitely. We're gonna kill that cruiser. Gonna kill me a cruiser. We got that Nagato on fire. Boom. Okay, there we go. That's all we're gonna need. One front battery is all we need, and we get the Kraken. So we're swinging around here. I'm doing this on purpose because I need to bring my batteries to bear on this Colorado. He's lower on health, and looks like he has put the fire out I caused earlier. Cause another one on the Nagato. He's probably gonna put that out in a hurry. Okay. Go into this whole serpentine motion here. Bob and weave once you're in there. Gonna throw some torpedoes out, more or less where I suspect he will be. Boom. Put some extra damage in there. Another 5,000 damage. Piddly, but score 2 torpedo hits. Got some flooding going down, and he's on fire. It's glorious. Unfortunately, that ends our day right there. Nagato picks up the kill, but we did manage to take down that Colorado with the fire damage. And right now, it looks like the fire damage on that Nagato has ended. At the time, I wasn't certain that it was whether or not he had used his damage control consumable, or damage control ability to put out both the fire and the floods. But at the very least, we're gonna stick around for the next few seconds. I'm hoping. I really am hoping. I'm hoping, a wishing, a hoping, a dreaming. Boom! There we go. I'm happy now. So that was actually a great round, and it really does showcase that the skill builds that you had from the previous set of patches, that is up to 0.5.3, still work, and I suspect that for most battleships that will be the case. There, as I said, there may be a few new ones on the block that you could look out for, especially if you like your AA spec. You're running your AA spec on your US battleships, which could be quite lethal with all the way the planes were rebalanced at tiers 9 and 10. And certainly when you have the wondrous secondary range of like the Izumo or the Yamato, you could really make use of that secondary skill to devastating effect. At least that's how I'm currently thinking about it, you know. Maybe it'll be different, who knows. But for our 7 kills, 7 planes shot down, got over 2,500 base experience, the Kraken Award, all kinds of goodness, and came right down to the wire. It looked like a defeat for a little bit there, but we managed to pull it back. Oh, and it looks like it was my mistake. That was not an allied Amagi, that was an allied Nagato. Oh, wow. Maybe I need to make my review screen just a little bit bigger when I'm doing the commentary for these videos. Maybe. So, I know that this is just one of those things about battleship rounds that sometimes you never really know how much damage you're really going to do based on the first few minutes. This one certainly, when I was playing it, had this aura of piddly the entire match, and I guess that kind of follows more or less the lack of Citadel penetrations evidenced in this game, which is kind of rare for the Tirpitz. I mean, I've had 8 Citadel rounds in this beast, and I'd quite happily... It's one of the few battleships I really enjoy captaining, really, despite its bad dispersion, as most people would deem it. But it usually produces like 3 or 4 Citadel penetrations a match. Not fantastic, but, you know, usually good, but RNG said no. But for all of our lack of Citadel penetrations, we got good number of, a total of 6 torpedo hits, for a grand total with all of the damage over time, goodness from fires and floodings, all the other shell types and torpedo damage. About 143,000 damage dealt that match. Did fairly well. And admittedly, this was also one of those rare matches that took almost the entire battle time. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? Truly is amazing. So, thank you for having watched the video up to this point. I know that this is on the longer side, even for some of my single battle World of Warships videos. So, again, thank you for having bared with me. I'd be interested to hear in the comments how 0.5.3 has been treating you all, especially with respect to skills and the new captain skill tree and whatnot. So please let me know in the comments. If you happen to like this video, please consider giving it a like down below. Also, if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Upcoming content includes the usual War Thunder Wednesday videos, and I think I'm going to be spending a little bit more time in World of Warships this week, discussing some of the changes that I've seen in-game, and in particular going through some of the tech tree stuff in a little bit more detail, because some of it's a bit interesting. Also, look forward to at least one team battles replay. I know that it will be a little bit of an unusual thing because, you know, I'm primarily a carrier captain. Yeah, I know, carriers in team battles, that should be interesting, right? At least I thought so, and I hope that you enjoy the results on that. So please look forward to that. Hope to see you around the channel. Thank you, and good day.